All right, everyone, welcome to Dare to Be Different. As we're getting here together, I would really like to see where people are from, all the beautiful places around the world. Can we locate the chat and say where you're from? I think it's so much fun. Okay, so we've got people from Ukraine and Kyrgyzstan, Ukraine, Argentina, Greece, Canada, Germany, Zagreb, Croatia, Spain, again, Argentina. Fabulous. Okay, so of course I am in New Orleans, but originally from Ukraine. So welcome to all of my former expats here, and thank you for taking the time. Okay, New Zealand, but now live in Argentina. Yeah, I was thinking it was probably not the best time for New Zealand. Okay, Kazakhstan. Very cool. Um, so I know that some of you, this is the first time to ever attend my event. So I would like to take a few moments to introduce myself. I will be fast. Oh, okay, from Italy. Yes, Maria, and you live in Croatia. So just for your information, my name is Elena Motonono. Some of you know me from the if either from Instagram or you've been subscribed for my newsletter, following my blog. I have been teaching and working online for full time, I guess, 10 years. So February actually marks this week, actually marks full 10 years because that's the time when I moved to the US permanently and I started teaching online permanently. And so there was a lot of um, like novel worthy, adventure worthy um, uh, types of events that surrounded my business in the beginning. But then I moved from being an ESL teacher to accent trainer to teacher trainer to eventually training teachers. Is that what I do? Particularly helping language teachers move from the exhausting one-to-one format, work smarter, but also build systems in their businesses so that they could do what they love, be creative, and impact the people that matter the most to them. And so that's why here you today I'll be talking about daring to be different. It's something that is really dear to my heart. We'll be talking about niching, and niching is a really important subject for all of us. In particular, if we want to build a long-lasting business, we need to get really serious about niching. What I see sometimes happen with online teachers, they get to a point where they launch a product or they, write a book and they want to sell it and it doesn't sell. Okay, so what is the first thing that people do? Well, most of the time, the people that I know, they will go on social media. They will find a person that teaches how to sell, right? And they will buy a course or a book on how to sell. And that is actually really good, but it's not going to help because the helping part actually starts with niching. So when things don't work out, when you can't sell, when you're struggling with your business, when there's, like you're stuck, you have to go back to the basics. It's kind of like, but it's really difficult because we get to a point where, hey, I've been in business for so many years and you're telling me to go back to basics. And I will be telling you that because without that clarity, you cannot move forward. You can learn tricks about sales, you can sell after you learn the tricks, but then you won't be selling consistently. And so today we'll be talking about that, how to niche down, what it really means. This workshop originally we did 3 years ago with Veronica Pavlovska when we launched our Smart Teachers Library, which today I will talk a little bit more about. But whether or not you choose to stay with us and work with us in the library, this is a great way for you to learn what niching is and what it isn't. And I have to tell you that it's not something that you decide one day and then you're happy with it for the rest of your life. It's going to change and evolve. Um, so I just wanted to let you know that there's a chat and you can drop your questions there and as we go. And I will try to keep this as quick and swift as possible. There will be a workbook, an amazing workbook that we will be sending to you for free at the end of this workshop, together with the recording. So if there's anything that you have, questions about, or if you lose part of it, there will be more materials in the workbook and more exercises. So by the end of the hour, you will know, first of all, what a niche is and what it isn't, and why it's the core that binds everything together. Um, how to position yourself and don't fear competition. So a lot of times I would meet with teachers, they tell me, oh, I'm so confident about my niche. I know that my niche is, so to speak, business English. Um, and that's all great. But then when I ask them, so how are you different from other business English teachers? And they can't tell me. And so when you can't tell me why you're different from everybody else and how you're different, it means you do not know your niche. So just for your information, you may have decided on the path that you would like to take, the direction, but don't say that I've defined my niche. If you're still afraid of competition, if you still feel like you're not secure about how you're different from others, if you can't say that in several sentences and you have to keep going, if you feel that you are different because your prices are cheaper or because you live in a certain country or speak a certain language or other things, then it means you're still not sure about your niche. You still have to do this work, okay? And that's not an easy type of work because people feel like, okay, I've already done this. Now I need to move on. So, how to share your voice on your website. So, how do you talk about yourself, your services, in a way that is not sleazy, salesy, not icky? And I imagine that many of you are here because you know that I don't like that kind of stuff. And I'm not going to tell you about pushing your products forward and all that kind of stuff. Because when you are sure about your niche, you're certain and confident in your core message, you will attract fans and followers that will not need to be pushed to anything. They will be ready to do stuff. And I'm sure you know from yourself as a consumer, there are times when you are absolutely in love with the product, whether it's, the lotion, whether it's, your favorite brand of clothes, whether it's your favorite watch that you love. You don't have to be told, hey, this is your last chance to do it. You just go ahead and do it. And that is how niching works. Successful niching works. If the niching is not successful, you will be doing a lot of the stuff that many teachers actually don't like doing, as in, sort of barking at people, trying to tell them you need to buy from me, and I don't know why. And then how to amplify your message on social media. And there will be a couple of bonuses for you as well. So yay. The bonus one, I will share with you 2 case studies of online teachers that have chosen a niche from the very beginning. And they, from my experiences and interactions with them, they don't want to go back to no niche. And that's another thing too. Like when you're sure of your niche, you don't want to go back and say, oh, I'm generic again. And an invite into our Smart Teachers Library. And if you join, there will be a special download for you. Okay. So before we go into niching, actually, let me back up a little bit. In the chat, can you give me examples of niching? Which, if you're following my newsletters or even Instagram, I was talking about this interview I had some time ago. And the person on the podcast was asking me, can you give me examples of niches for online language teachers? I was like, there's no big book of niches. I can't just open the book and say, okay, But from your experience, like what comes to mind when you think about a niche? Like, is there like do you have an association? You can type up and I will look at your answers. There's no right or wrong answers. We're a big, happy family here, actually, not so big. Only have 27 people here live. Okay, using grammar communicatively. Yeah, a lot of people talk about, IELTS program for those willing to immigrate to Canada. All right. Speaking for beginners, language for travel, teaching with movies. That's true. Um, okay, so all of these things are, out there, and people sometimes feel like they're what they need to do is open this big book and choose what works for them. English for working artists succeed in the international market. That's true for IT professionals, advanced conversation, Spanish with a Santiago Camino. Yes, all those cool niches that people build, um, potential audience and clients. Yeah. Okay, so that's good. Before we go into the niching in the language teaching, we have to think about niching outside of language teaching. And I really enjoy this exercise because we as creative beings, and particularly teachers, we need to sometimes step outside of our online teaching a world to see things from a different perspective. Because when you see this, and I can guarantee you, after you see what we're about to see, you will look at niching completely differently. Right now, it's probably a pain in the behind trying to figure it out, but it will feel completely different. It will make sense, okay? And it will not be as intimidating. So, and how we're going to do that? We're going to do that by looking at niching in architecture, okay? Can everybody, close your eyes and you imagine a niche in architecture. A niche is a shallow recess, especially one on a wall to display a statue or other ornaments. So you have seen them, and I'm going to give you several examples of them here in our workshop. So, and without really thinking about niching and like trying to devise the business, I would just want you to look at the pictures and think about the person that built that niche. Okay, so let's look at these, several examples. Okay, here's one. Okay, this is the niche in the wall, right? And you can look at it and you can see something about the person, right, who built it. You probably can see that they like something vintage, right? That they're minimalist, maybe. They like books. Um, they like, you know, old clocks, maybe. Okay, so that's the niche. Also a cool thing that, as you can see from architecture, that this niche is colored different color, to the rest of the room. So it's in contrast, which means you walk into the room and it pulls your eyes into itself. Okay, so that's what effective niching, that's why niching is there. It's not just like, okay, let's build a niche because it's cool to build a niche. There's a certain purpose, and there's beautiful light coming through. All right, let's look at the next one. Is very different, right? Okay, so this one is more like for artsy people, right? And so you see that they display some art in here, and it's very spacious. There's lots of white space compared to the first one. Probably the previous one is a little pragmatic. This one is more artsy. Okay, I'm sure those of us who are artists will appreciate that. I appreciate the next one. Okay, this one has some traveling overtones. Also, not just art, but also maybe what this person likes, dogs. the two colors, the contrast that pulls you in. And as you can tell, you can see this is in a bathroom. It doesn't look like a bathroom at all. Okay, but it makes it quite unique. Okay. All right, let's look at this one. This one is actually, the staircase, and you can see some of the little shelves are closed and others are open, and there's more light. Um, okay, so different types of niches in architecture. So some of the things that you have seen will tell you that the wall niche, they transform a room, right? Um, because when you walk into the room, you see the niche. It just pulls you in. You sort of want to walk in and look and see what's in there. They create more space. They're also, for pragmatic reasons. They create more space. They make the room look bigger, feel bigger. They they create also, they help you create more storage space, right? You can add unique character, and then you can Google wall niches because we obviously had fun with putting together this presentation and you can find lots of those on Pinterest, anybody? So yeah, you can find a lot of those. You can add more light. Lighting really does an amazing thing. Um, they show off your passions, interests. They draw people in, like I said. They add more storage space, like just for you know how that is usually, like, I don't know where to put all this, so you create a niche and it's shelves, but it's not shelves, it's inside the wall. So when you transfer that image onto niching in business, um, you realize that niching is not something that, oh, I need to do it and it's really hard and it's something that I need to find a niche that is non-existent. Because by definition, when you create a niche and you really take the time to think through what it is, it's going to be unique and it's going to be like nobody else. And you won't need to use extra attractive features like pricing and other things. It will be quite simple. It will be you, and it will be all that matters to you. Okay, so lessons from viewing them is creating a niche requires specific planning and knowledge. It takes time. It doesn't just appear, and it might change over time. Like you kind of grow or evolve from one thing to the next. Now, does it mean that you are going to completely redo? Well, maybe you completely redo things, but if you put thought and knowledge into it and your passions and you're truly connected to yourself, it won't completely change. It will evolve over time. A niche has a different purpose depending on where it is or who owns it, so a different purpose. And building a unique niche for your business more than attaching a label. So it's more than just saying, okay, I'm going to teach Spanish for beginners. It's more than that. It's deeper. And why is niching so challenging to us is because instead of connecting it, we think that we need to connect it to the people out there, one, and we think that we need to somehow create a niche that will be different from other people. And off we go looking at what other people are doing and also talking to like our potential clients, and then until we're overwhelmed, and then we don't know what to talk about anymore. But really, successful niching starts with yourself. And it's truly authentic when you pull out what it really matters to you. If you create it, and that will be in your workbook, we'll have a little doodling page for you with a niche, and you will have to put in the things that you think are important to you. Okay, so and that is when you will start thinking not about, okay, here's the thing, it's important to me, but will it be important to others? No, at this point, we're not talking about others. We're talking about you. And the truth of it is, we are not really connected with ourselves. When we look at, even the other day, I was reading a post by someone who was saying that she's a teacher, but she's not sure what she likes other than teaching. If she watches movies, she creates lesson plans. If she goes for a walk, she has, I don't know, like word lists that she forms on the walk, you know, and all other things. And that's kind of, I mean, that's kind of sad, but it's not uncommon because we were brought into this teaching position, and over time, we kind of developed in this Übermensch, like this human being that never thinks about themselves, but they always think about serving others. And as a result, we are totally disconnected from ourselves. We even, if if you work at universities, or if you teach online 4 or 5 hours a day, or more than that, something you need to do to sort of survive, you don't even have mental space for it, to think about what is it that I like, what can I do without sitting there and thinking how I can use it in a lesson. Although, I mean, it happens naturally, but it's still a lot of work to try and dissect this. Okay, so let's move on. So most of the time, whenever we talk about niching, we think about our expertise, right? So when initially when I started teaching ESL, because I had taught everybody everything, my expertise was like generic ESL. I could also do other ESLs if I wanted to, and that's how I felt about my qualifications. The more qualified I felt I was, the more people I should be able to serve. And of course, that's not a good idea, but that's like a mental block. I learned that this is a mindset block that I had to learn to work through, that I can't help everybody, and it's okay. And for me, even to this day, knowing that, well, this person may not necessarily be my ideal client, is kind of like saying to myself, well, you suck as a coach if you can't work with everybody. So, um, but I think there's a lot of courage and strength that comes from understanding your limitations. So initially I was, okay, I'm ESL. The second stage was later when I was like, I need to narrow down. I became an accent coach and trainer because I had always been fascinated with accents and maybe connected with my music background and all that. So I I looked mainly on my expertise, okay, and I pulled my niching idea from my expertise. And that's what happens with most teachers. Like, well, I am an expert in, this business English, so this is going to be my niche. But it's not really the niche that connects other people and pulls people in, because unless you add your passion, your values, your story, and your desire to make a change in the world, your niche is just kind of like a blank wall, as opposed to the niche, all right? Or maybe like a wall with little places to put stuff, but you still haven't decided what to put stuff in there. So let's look at examples of, so before we go into examples, so it's really important to look at passion, your passion, like not just, okay, I'm an expert in teaching exam prep, but is this really what I love? And I actually am a little eerie every time in a coaching session somebody says, oh, I love preparing for IELTS or something like that. And I always have to ask you, do you really like doing that? Or well, really, not really, but this is what people are paying for. Okay, all right, that's a different thing. Why should we stop and pause at this point? Because we are choosing our niche based on our perceived demand. So we think that, oh, as long as people pay me, this is a good niche. And that can be really that will kill your brand because you will only always be trying to advertise something that you don't believe in. So you're passionate. It has to be passionate. It has to be about your values. There has to be values in it. So, for example, for me, I know there are different ways of going about marketing, particular marketing on social media. There are certain things that I won't do because I believe that I just don't like when people are barking at me or calling me, how sometimes like this kind of marketing that comes across as pushy that says, you have to do this. If you don't do this, you're stupid. Like, this is not my style. It's not my values. I don't like being humiliated and I immediately unfollow people whenever I feel like somebody is negative and humiliating. And I don't use that. Or I work towards, uh, you know, being more mindful of things that, oh, this is a good idea, but not running around with it. Expertise, of course, your story. How did you come here? Why are you using this as your, what compelled you to do this and your desire to make a change in the world? Okay, so let's look at some examples. And in the meantime, I saw a couple of chat messages. So, okay, good questions. I will come back and comments. Thank you, ladies. So there's one, Freedom to Exist. They are luxury minimalist watches. Beautiful brand that has a unique story. The owner had a very small wrist and she couldn't find watches that fit her. The owner also, the desire to change the world, hated all of those watches that had a ton of, wording on it. So Freedom to Exist has absolutely no branding on the face of the watch. There is nothing, which I think takes a lot of courage to do that. And that was, for example, very compelling to me when I learned about this brand. I was like, wow, people actually can do it. So there's a story, there's values, there's passion, there's expertise because they're designers, and there you go. There's their own niche. Now, they're not competing with whatever other big brands of watches that cost $2,000 or $3,000. Their watches are really affordable. They're unique. There's a beautiful experience of receiving the watch from them. Always comes with a card, personal note. The way it's packaged is incredible. Um, so that is, and they don't have to be crowded in the crowded space and say, oh, maybe we can be like whatever that company, Rolex watch. Yeah, we can be like Rolex, but not like Rolex. No, they were like, we need to focus on what's important to us. What's important to us is not to have a lot of bling bling on on the watch. What's important to us is so that it can fit a small hand. What's important to us is to be able to say, uh, well, it's okay if you don't own iWatch, and not everybody has to own an iWatch, and that's great. Not everybody likes iWatches. All right, Holsti is another one. It's incredible, helping people live a more meaningful life. They send out little journals and artwork, um, and this is like a subscription base. And they don't just send out any kind of cards. They have themed cards, and their main goal is to help people live more meaningful lives. And their brand started out by writing this manifesto, which will be one of your assignments as well, is writing a manifesto. Other brands like ConvertKit is email marketing software developed specifically for online creators, bloggers, podcasters, YouTubers, not for big companies, local businesses, or e-commerce. So they are very specific about, okay, and probably behind that, not probably, but I know there is a person who said, okay, I was one of the bloggers and I did not know which software to use, and I couldn't find the one that worked for me for so many reasons, so I created my own. Etsy is an online store for crafters who sell handmade items, not for manufacturers. It's not Amazon. They're not competing with Amazon. It's completely different. And see, that's the thing. with niching, successful niching. When you're niche successfully, you at some point stop caring about what other people are doing. And it no longer worries. Actually, is quite exciting that other people are doing it, you know, whatever they're doing. You don't feel like, oh, I need to lower my prices because XYZ is selling this, and you know, I will never be able to sell my products, or I need to do this or that. No, you don't, because you are quite confident in what you have to offer. Baking It, a platform for managing a cake business. Lovely. Like, you don't have to managing everybody business. It's not going to work for everybody. Doga, it's yoga for dog owners. Yoga for you and your dog, and how you can do that together with your dog. Beautiful brand and beautiful story inside it. So um, when you use these 5 components that we talked about, your values, your story, your expertise, but also your desire to change the world. And that is a really important question. And this is a really difficult question to ask. What change do I seek to make with my brand? What change? And sometimes it's like, okay, I don't know what change I seek to make. Think about the things that really are your pet peeves about your area. Like, I don't like how people, when they teach, let's say Italian, they focus a lot on grammar. Or I don't like how people emphasize become fluent in 3 months. I don't like this. I don't like, what are your values? Once you write down your values, you will understand a lot more of how you are different. So if you still are asking these questions of, am I niche enough? Is my competition going to devour me? What if I don't have enough clients? What if my niche isn't hype? What if the people can't afford my services? What if I get bored? I hear that a lot, like, oh, this is such, you know, what if I do only one niche and I will get bored for the rest of my life? You will get bored if you're doing something that you hate. I think if I were to um, work with the audience that I don't associate with, or I'm not connected with, I would get really bored because I would not find how I can really reach out to them. I get tired if I only write about one thing. You will, if this one thing is not a part of your passion. You will definitely feel like you are trying to sneak in your product into every single email that you write. So those are really important things. Do not just use expertise. Think about your values. Think about your story. So some time ago, somebody writes to me, one of my subscribers, and sends an email, and he says, you know, I realize that you have a really unique niche. Like, how did you come up with it? And I was just laughing because you can't just come up with it. You don't see. I was like, what do I want to do? And then immediately you have this picture with all the little details, and you know exactly what you're doing. And man, it's all so successful. And no, in the beginning, you decide which direction you want to take. What is your true passion? And then as you keep walking, you get more and more specific about what you want to do, how you want to serve this audience. Eventually, I had to leave my accent training business behind, even though at some point it was bringing in more than 50% of my revenue because I was working with really good clients. I could not do it. I knew that if I wanted to really narrow down, really touch the people, I had to have the time. I couldn't be like running 5 campaigns each day, a different campaign, and sending all these emails. I wouldn't be able to connect with people. I wouldn't definitely be able to do what I'm doing right now. Like, I would not have the time to do that. And so that is really important. And so over time, as you work with, if you get frustrated, you look at what other people are doing, and then you feel insecure, and then you go to a coach and you work in a mastermind, you're like, okay, I don't know. And then people will tell you something, you take a course, you get a tiny little piece again. And so eventually you have like a clearer puzzle. And the clearer you become, uh, the more successful you will be in building your connections with other people. I'm actually really curious to hear from people, if I know there are people from our library that may have seen this workshop 3 years ago and how they feel about this workshop today, because I think your consciousness changes even if you're doing the same piece of content over and over again. And that's why it's so important, and I believe even in language teaching and in any kind of coaching, is not just to consume more information, but to go back and review what you already know. Because you can never like know completely and know, oh yes, I have arrived at this point where I know everything. Um, so, okay, now let's look at other things. Oh, Lydia, thank you so much for your comments. I really appreciate it. Um, so the questions we ask versus the question we should ask about niching. We ask, is it in demand? Will people afford it? Am I qualified? Another teacher asked me, is this in? What is the new in? What is it's like your niche is this bet that you need to, the horse that you need to bet on, and then it will bring you a lot of money. It's not going to work this way. And yet I still hear that. But the questions we want to ask is, what am I passionate about? In other words, what do I lose track of time doing? What do I believe? Um, uh, okay, let me see. When it comes to what do I believe when it comes to doing your work well? What is it? What is important about my brand? What are my values? What am I qualified to do? Of course, but don't just end there, because your qualifications will develop as you niche. How did I end up here? What brought me to where I am? One of the reasons, your story is a part of your brand. It's a part of your niche. Why is this important that you are doing this kind of work? Well, it's important for me that I help people to work smarter, because there was a time when I was working too many hours and I realized how it affects your productivity, how it affects everything that you do. And so it's important for me to share this message. It's also important for me to reach out language teachers, not just English teachers, but language teachers. And I remember that from way back when I was like focusing particularly on ESL teachers. And one of the teachers that was following me, she says, it seems like everything that's out there is geared towards, English teachers, and we feel like we're left out. And she was an Italian teacher, and I really appreciate her saying that, because it helped me understand. But at the same time, like, I didn't go into the fitness coaching or life coaching because, oh, people can afford my services at that point. No, I actually found a lot more fulfillment and, both financial and uh, I guess emotional, when I was working with a group that I was really closely connected with. What change would I seek to make in the world? Why do I do this? Like, what is my ultimate goal? What do I help people with? Okay, so now these are hard questions, and I always say, like, has anything worthwhile ever been easy to do? When you think about your life, when you think about even the language that you're speaking, and for many of you, English is not your first language, and yet right now, um, this is the language we're using for this workshop, and we're processing everything in a foreign language, and that was not an easy thing to learn. But the fact that we are able to do that was thanks to the hard work that we had done and we had put in. So niching is not the kind of, okay, business English, let's move on. So there is more work that has to go into it. And a lot of this work comes with your mindset changes. Not just, okay, now from now on, I'm going to be do this kind of stuff. No, it has to do with, changing your mindset, changing the way you think about certain things. Because unless your mindset changes, you can't become who you want to become. Charging higher prices. It's not about, and we all know that, it's not about putting a price tag and saying, this is how much it costs. Because you have to tell yourself why you're worth it, how your services are helpful to others, what exactly people are receiving from it. And if you're not sure about these things, you can't just put, I mean, you can put the tag, but you will not be confident. And then if you're not confident, then you can't market. Because as Seth Godin wrote, when you're fake, people will know it. And if you're doing something that conflicts with your inside being, it's really difficult to overcome that and to hide that. Um, okay, so two case studies is one of the bonuses. Two case studies is Kara Leopold. Who knows Kara from leolistening.com? So Kara um, started out in a really smart way. I wish I had started out like that. Instead, I was like, oh, let's do everything. I can teach everybody and blah, blah, blah. Well, I love it that uh, my clients are think a lot smarter than I used to think. So if you go on her website, um, she teaches English learners how to understand fast spoken English using movies. So she's particularly targeting, she's not targeting everybody, she's targeting movie lovers, people that are learning English, and those who are frustrated that they can't understand spoken English. And when you go to her website, it's everything is about that. It's very clear and it's very specific, and it targets one specific audience in a um, very narrow way. And actually, she's no longer using social media. She left social media because she dug into values and she decided that that's not what she doesn't want to use social media. And amazingly, she doesn't need social media. In fact, those of you who think that you need social media absolutely need social media. That's not true. A lot of people, their businesses and systems are built without it. Now, she started out with using social media. But everything on social media was also around communicating with the people that are watching movies, loving movies, enjoying certain series, and wanting to talk about that. So that's her only focus. She was not diverted by everybody else. Now, Trisha Trobert in vagabondenglish.com, we started out a first session. I still remember, and actually in the book that's coming out, you will read that story. Um, there's a book that I'm working on. It's coming out next month. But there will be a story of our first session with Trisha. And Trisha really enjoys reading and writing. And we were exploring the niches and directions that she could take. And I said, can you believe like that you could actually totally teach people how to learn a language or just learn a language by reading in English, contemporary fiction. And we were like, yeah, this is amazing. And all of a sudden she says, yes, that would be a great direction to take. So we're exploring niching. And then she says, but what about grammar? What about word lists? Like, what about other things? The 5 aspects of the language? And I said, well, I don't think you really need to worry about that if you are catering to the audience that's already reading books. Well, eventually, as she was learning more about her audience, she realized that her audience likes writing more than reading. They're already reading. I mean, they read and write. They go together. Initially, she thought she would encourage people to read more contemporary fiction to improve their English. But then she moved into writing, how writing really helps people express themselves, also for mental health and all that. And journaling now is her latest thing, and developing a community of writers that journal. And it's not even about, initially she was talking a lot about native versus non-native speakers. And after reading some of her blog posts, I said, you need to drop this native, non-native speakers, because she was attracting a lot of native speakers as well as non-native speakers. And they were at the level of their language development that they did not need or did not feel that divide. So, and the role of social media for her is to bring all these people together in her group and, meet to discuss books and then to read, to journal, to get deeper into yourself. If it wasn't for Trisha, and so it's ironic because Trisha and I worked together and I helped her with her niche and started, she built the community on Facebook and all that. And then she started offering programs, and I bought one of them. And I began writing creatively, and I absolutely fell in love with it. And I learned so much about creativity through her programs. And if I think about her, if she had stayed where she was, which she was teaching everything to everybody and hated it, then it would never have changed me or changed other people. So in a way, her message and her um, what she was doing, her brand, changed the world for me and changed her world, her part of the world. And that's what strong brands do. Um, and if somebody were to come to you, and there were so many teachers that I had talked to, they said, what I really want to do is teach creative writing in my language, like in Spanish or in Italian or whatever. And I said, yay, go. But they say, well, I talked to my brother, or I talked to somebody else, and they said, who is going to pay for this? Okay, has anybody ever heard that? Well, don't ever listen to these people, because now Trisha has a community that is growing, and Kara is selling products. Now, it didn't take them, 3 months. It took them way longer, but they're not in a hurry. They're creating a business that, 10 years from now, they can really fully draw all the benefits from. And they're getting to the point of sustainability, which is amazing. You are doing something sustainable, you're doing something that feeds your spirit, and you're doing something that changes the world. Don't we all want that? So these are case studies, and these are websites. You can go and peruse them and look into more details. And I just wanted to let you know here um, that if you guys have any questions, I'm almost done with my presentation, and you can feel free to put your questions in the forum. I would love to answer them. But I would like to take a few seconds to share with you about Smart Teachers Library that actually will be open tomorrow, and not tomorrow, Wednesday, and you can enroll. And this is a great community. Once you have decided that you want to build a business and you want to, take this direction, you want to find your fans, the library really helps. It's a community of people and a selection of short trainings that help you turn your ideas into action. There is we have many online courses, there's engaged community, there's 2 coaches, and there's actionable content, smart challenges, and events that you can participate in. And there is a lot that you can get out of from the community. So if you would like to move on in that direction of building your business, this could be a great place for you to join. And as you join, this is your bonus, you will receive a downloadable version of our opted out manifesto for online teachers. And here's the link to check it out later. And of course, I will include it in the follow-up email with a recording of this workshop and with the workbook. So, so last thing is finding a niche is a tough experience of looking inside. Ask yourself difficult questions and reflect. This is where it starts, and it's not an easy process, and it's not like an overnight thing that all of a sudden you have all the clarity. And we don't always know what we look for and how the pieces we find will help us. So when you join the community and ask mentors and work with people that are moving in the same direction, you will be more encouraged. Just like these case studies have helped you and encouraged you, I know it will feel the same way when you're part of the community. So um, you can create a strong brand and identity if you dare to be different. It takes exactly that. It takes the daring part, which is not always the easy part. All right, so questions. Thank you for these case studies. Thank you. Thank you for your comments, by the way. I will read everything and actually include our chat as a text document inside the email that I will send. Um, so um, let's see. So Vicky is saying she watched Dare to be Different in December, January, but she's got a lot more aha moments. So that is so true. So Estefania, niching, it's not about choosing a learner level. Sometimes it's hard to teach beginners and intermediate. So I often think about it. Maybe it will be easier to just choose between levels. That's true. Um, if you're choosing the level, um, there is a reason why you're choosing it. So let's say, do you like working with beginners? Then just focus on working with beginners and creating content for them. But what kinds of beginners? What do they need the language for? And why is it important to you? Like, why is this important to you? Because that's your story as well. Maybe you were a beginner and you had a hard time finding resources and you want to be there to help people at the beginning of the journey. Or maybe just like Trisha, who said, I want to teach reading and writing and creative writing specifically. And of course, for creative writing, you already have enough language learning. You don't need to be teaching or learning grammar at that point. I mean, I'm still learning a lot when I work with Trisha and she corrects my writing. I'm still learning a lot, but that's definitely not the point. And obviously, I hire a copy editor to look through my writing as well. Alina, explore the questions. And insecure in terms of niching, that's even hard to ask a question right now. Nothing comes to mind. Yes, in the workbook, again, if you can actually print it out and work through it, I can guarantee you will be, it will be way clearer. And a lot of people have told me, not because I'm telling myself, but a lot of people in the library have said that this has helped them to break through whatever blocks they had about niching and actually find their direction. Um, okay, all right. All right. Well, there will be a recording if you didn't watch the whole thing. Laura, thank you for being here. Um, okay. Uh, you really inspire me. I want to work with women as well. Yes, working with women is another thing. Like, why is it important to you? Choosing your audience and how you want to communicate your message. Um, oh, Tatiana, very good. She was in the first Dare to be Different, but now it seems different. Yes, now of course, and that's so amazing, isn't it? And actually, Tatiana had a beautiful post in Instagram some time ago that I actually used in my coaching sessions about the spiral staircase. You know, if you look from the top, when you go up the spiral staircase, it seems like you're going in circles. But really, when you go look from the side, you realize that you're getting on different levels and going up. So every time I work with clients, you know, after 2 or 3 years, we go back to the same questions: niching, core message, how are you different? What change do you seek to make? But of course, the way I answered those questions 2 or 3 years ago is different from what I answer them right now. Okay, technical questions. Kara, deal with copyright when using films in English. Okay, so she does not use the entire films. She never puts images on any of her materials, images from the films. That's all copyrighted. She only uses short excerpts for her courses that are available on YouTube for free, and they're usually no longer than 30 seconds, if that. And if she's doing like a group program where everybody's watching the same film, everybody gets the assignment, everybody gets the film, and then people come back and discuss parts of it and portions of it, but she never like broadcast the same movie. Um, that's it. Love the workshop, resonates with me. Thank you, Talita. Hope to see you again. Um, Pricing is still a challenge, as well as creating products other than one-on-one. Yeah, we have materials for that in the library. I talk a lot about that. Thank you for reading the book, and um, thank you for participating. It was really nice seeing all of you today. Again, if you would have any more questions, there will be a follow-up email, and you can respond to it. And and I and thank you so much for your time today, being live, and whoever was not able to join live, thank you for making the time to watch the recording. Thanks a lot and have a great rest of the day, beautiful Monday, and a fruitful week. I hope to see some of you inside the library soon. And if not, we'll meet each other on Instagram and other places via email. Bye, everyone.